I'm going to get to Lee calling in from Canada. Lee, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hello, Dan. Hi, Joe. Yeah, Lee from Canada. I was a seminarian back 30 years ago in a Catholic missionary order, very liberal Catholic, and just interested in Joe's take on liberation theology. I know that she mentioned a little bit, but I missed some of that. So whatever you want to say about it, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm a secular humanist and a rational skeptic.
Okay. Yeah, fair. There is a lot of ideas inside of liberation theology that I absolutely love. The idea that, Christianity is about centering the marginalized. It's about the poor, and it's about basically what the Beatitudes talk about. Like the kingdom of God belongs to the needy. The kingdom of God belongs to the poor. The kingdom of God belongs to the marginalized, and how you will find divinity in the marginalized and in caring for those that have not, and in sharing, and this like radical generosity. So liberation theology kind of centers everything into that, but there is this other side of liberation theology that is the fact that liberation, though we have to care for the needs of the most marginalized, and we have to care for the needs of the poor, liberation theology also says, and we also have to care for what they call the soul, which is really caring for their, now we can understand that the what they're talking about is caring for their trauma, helping them heal from their trauma so that they don't continue to repeat the same cycles of trauma and abuse that they have been brought up into. And so I love a lot of ideas of liberation theology, though I don't agree with all of the theology. I do love this idea of centering the well-being of the most marginalized, and centering their well-being doesn't stop at feeding them. It doesn't stop at giving them something to wear, but it goes beyond that and says, what does it mean to make sure that you are that you have the tools to be able to heal, that you have the tools to be able to be the most authentic version of yourself. And for that, they offer a lot of, spiritual ideas and spiritual frameworks, which doesn't necessarily help everyone. But the idea is you get to be a liberated being. And that means liberated both from systems of oppression that are physical, and liberated from, oppressive ideologies that are keeping you hostage, I guess.
Like versions of Christianity,
yes,
as well. And I think it's important to emphasize too. Like, I think liberation theology has often been in response to other Christians and their practices and stuff.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting thing about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it started in South America, Latin America, really all over Latin America, as a response of a lot of the oppression from the church too, from the church married to the state. So yeah, it is like part of that liberation is liberation from the church. Yeah,
which is interesting to hear. Interesting stuff.
Right.
Any follow-up questions on that, Lee?
I even back when I was a seminarian studying theology, with the order, there was some struggle between the more liberal aspects of the Catholic Church, parts of it, and the more traditional or conservative parts of it. And there's still that struggle there now. And I just wonder about, allies among secular humanists. We've got to find people to kind of work with. I've already, there's no way I'm going to ever turn back from being a secular humanist and an atheist, but it'd be nice to have allies and see how much we can work together, even though there's some things that, kind of work against that 100% anyway.
Yeah. Lee, this is why I'm doing it this month right now, is because of this conversation right here. Okay. So like at the end of the day, Joe and I do not agree on some things. Like, we probably have some different takes on like what we're ultimately trying to do, what our divinity is, right? It's to use that framework, because I don't use those same concepts anymore. Right. I don't, spirituality and spiritual language is not as useful of a framework to me, because it's a little loosey-goosey for me, to be honest with you. It's a little too free form. And I like working with the pragmatic, with the stuff that I can see, because that's what's more reliable to me now. Because I have it's hard for me to trust Christianity. It's hard for me to trust using frameworks, as progressive or not, because I recognize the harms that has happened there, and the harms that it continue to affect me and my friends and the people in this community. But it is important to recognize too, I think, that there are Christians who recognize this, who still call themselves Christians, who still say like, yeah, this stuff's fucked up and we're trying to make changes to it. And I think that's who Joe is. I think that's what Joe is trying to do, and other people who appeared on this. But I think it's important to recognize that as atheists, because we often characterize Christianity as fundamentalism, as just this idea that we're, they don't like gay people. They don't like it when people get abortions. They all this and that affects us in our daily lives. And they legislate that to affect us secular people. Their religion is affecting us. And that is definitely a harm. And that's definitely something that we want to fight against. But at the same time, there are people who do have these sincere beliefs who recognize the harm in that as well, who don't want to legislate our lives. Right. And that is the reality that we live in. From the day I die, there will be Christians in the world. And I'd rather have conversations and figure out what we can do to live on this earth than convert everybody to Christianity. Convert Christianity to atheism, right? Because that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So anyway, Joe, your thoughts on this too?
No, it's you are describing exactly what happened in, at the beginning. Christianity was an oppressed framework. It was an oppressed religion, if you will. And then once it becomes the main religion, once it becomes the religion of the empire, then nobody gets to be anything but Christian. And so people who believed in Sol Invictus and worshipped Sol Invictus were now the bad guys. And if we do that again and again and again, eventually we have to learn that doesn't work. So demonizing all of Christians instead of demonizing their beliefs and their behavior, not demonizing, I'm sorry, holding them accountable for their beliefs and their behavior, then we become the oppressors, right? So I don't hate Christians. I say that all the time. I don't hate Christians. I do hate their behavior, and I will hold their behavior accountable. But if you want to continue to be a Christian, so long as you don't cause harm, I don't give a rat's ass.
Yeah. And that's how we feel about it. I don't know. Other people might feel differently, but I find value in this. I do. So anyway, Lee, I hope you found value in this call as well. So thanks for calling in. We're going to get to some other people here. Appreciate you checking in on Truth Wanted. Interesting night tonight.